Here we are again with that very familiar artifact and the visual organizer that we use to move from that artifact toward an analytical paragraph. And in this video, we're going to focus on how do we translate this cultural context piece, this reference to the Indian Rights Association created in 1882, into sentences integrated into our really cool paragraph. Before we move on, let's remember how important it is in your visual organizer to have a link to your resource. We're going to look at this again when I show you how to provide a works cited citation and a correct in-text citation in your paragraph to show people your source work. So let's go ahead and go back to that paragraph that we left off with at the end of the last video. And you see again here that the paragraph has those lovely color codes: blue for the claim, orange for details, brown for interpretations. I'm going to suggest that we bring cultural context in by using the color purple just to code things. And you're going to notice in this paragraph, I put the cultural context at the end after the details and interpretation, but sometimes it works to put the cultural context after the claim. So you can have a claim, then your cultural context, then your details and interpretation. I like it here because I think it ties things up together. And if you take a look at what I've written, you'll see that I'm integrating a discussion of the Indian Rights Association, which was the cultural context I mentioned in my visual organizer, and bringing it in here. And the key point with this Indian Rights Organization is they were actually promoting assimilation not to destroy indigenous culture, but to protect it. They thought the only way they could save Native Americans from predatory whites was to teach them how to integrate so that they become part of the dominant culture. So their intentions were good, although obviously the impact was to perpetuate a racial hierarchy and to push back for literally half a century or more the efforts for an authentic struggle for Native American equality. I explain that in my purple sentences here, and this is an example of how you bring a context into the paragraph. Remember, the artifact is from 1883. This is why it's always valuable to date your artifact in your claim sentence, and the cultural context is from 1882. Now, let's talk about my use of a source. Okay, this word, chronology, is the first word of my source. And I want to go back to my source for a second, and I want to look at what that source looks like. I went to the American Indian Experience American Mosaic, and I worked through that timeline, and I went to right around the same time as the artifact. So I looked at the 1880s, and you can see in here there are various events. And I decided to, let's see, where is the one I decided to pick? Okay, here it is, creation of the Indian Rights Association. So that's the material that I took from here that I used in my context. So what I want to do is I want to go down and take a look at the MLA citation that is oh so conveniently provided for me, provided for me in the database itself. Unfortunately, I am not being allowed to scroll down to show that to you. There we go. All right, now you can see it. The MLA citation is right there. So all I've got to do is copy and paste it. This is the joy of using a library database. It makes it so easy for you to use the highest level academic source to support your analysis by connecting it to a cultural context from the period the artifact was created. So if we go back to our paragraph, sorry to be moving things around on you, you can see that I have created a works cited that simply cuts and pastes the works cited from the database right in here. And my in-text citation is simply the first word. Because there's no author to this article, my citation is only the first word of the article. If there was an author, my citation would be the last name of the author, right? Because you'd say Sullivan, Jim. is what the works cited would say, and then you put Sullivan in the parenthetical citation. But we've got no author here. We've just got an article title, and there we go. That's a simple, quick, easy way to use a database to do a works cited citation to provide a cultural context for your paragraph. And that's what I wanted to walk you through in this video. One last thing. Because I don't use any exact words from my source, I do not have to put any quotations in this sentence. But because I got the information from the source, I have to cite the source. So whenever you use someone else's ideas or information you didn't have before you started your project, you're going to cite it, which is what I've done here. However, if you use any exact words from the quote, and I mean any, like just 2 or 3 words, you are going to put those into quotes. Any exact words from your source, you're going to put them into quotes in your sentence. So let's imagine that the phrase "could only survive" came from my source. I would put parentheses in there. If I found that exact quote in my source and I used that exact quote, even though it's only a little phrase, even though it's in a sentence I totally rewrote and put my own words in, I still would put a quote. Any exact words go in quotes. Even if you don't use any exact words, but you get a fact or an idea from a source, something you didn't know before, you're going to cite it. Those are the basic ways to protect yourself from accusations of plagiarism in MLA. So here we go. This is what a full paragraph looks like. Let me see if I can shrink it onto the screen so that it fits. So there you go. That's what a full paragraph of this paper looks like. Now, there's a good chance it's going to be hard for you to get a paragraph that's fully developed. That's fine. But I wanted to show you how it was possible by having a clear claim, by looking at details and interpretation, by bringing in a specific cultural context, all the things we've been doing all semester in this course. We can put together a really nice paragraph for each of the 3 artifacts we're looking at in our paper. We can also, for each of those 3 artifacts, provide a works cited citation for our context resources. And our context resources can come from the lectures, or they can come from the databases from the college, or anything else in the library that you think is a useful source. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later, but for now, I want you to dig in and start drafting these paragraphs, remembering to follow this model. I urge you, by the way, to print out the sample paragraph that I've provided, because I think having that sample paragraph in front of you, ideally printed out in color, can be really helpful. Remember, when you draft, I want you to put your work in color so you can make sure you have all the pieces. And then when you turn in your final paper, you're going to erase all that color. You're going to make it all one color, black. All right. See you in Canvas. Feel free to reach out with me with any and all questions. I'm really looking forward to seeing your work. Thanks.